I guess I should just come out and say it. Dungeons & Dragons doesn't need better rules, it needs better players. That's it. That's the whole video. Okay, not really. But if you've ever rage quit a table because the ranger tracked the wrong footprints or the DM fudged a die roll to save the plot, this one's for you. Look, D&D is not a perfect system. We all know that, especially if you spend literally any time on Reddit. There are edge cases, of course, weird exploits, and a handful of classes that feel like someone fell asleep halfway through writing them. I'm looking at you, whatever happened to literally half the Warlock subclasses. That's not why most campaigns fall apart. Most campaigns don't implode because of the rules. They implode because Kevin wanted to PvP the Bard again, or because someone thought playing a murder clown with no impulse control was just roleplay. Maybe the DM handed out a 60-page homebrew pantheon and expected everybody to have opinions by the end of session 1. I definitely didn't do that. That's not me. Stop looking at me like that. The rules, well, they're just scaffolding here. They're the stage, the lighting rig, the backstage ropes and pulleys that make the play possible. But they're not the reason anyone buys a ticket. The real show, the thing people come for, and the thing that makes Dungeons & Dragons is what happens on top of those rules. The story, the drama, the laughs, the players who somehow made a lawful good paladin sexy, and the DM who can give a mimic an existential crisis. The rules are there to create a shared language. They give us a way to agree on what happens when the bard tries to seduce a vampire, or when the barbarian suplexes a gelatinous cube. Without rules, things get chaotic, like Monopoly but with swords and trauma. But at the same time, D&D was never designed to be a perfectly balanced, airtight, simulationist system. In the same way, Warhammer 40k was never meant to simulate the strategic complexities of real battlefield combat. Quite simply, it's a patchwork quilt held together by vibes and duct tape. Let's be honest, most game masters hand-wave travel. Most parties ignore encumbrance unless it's funny. And how many tables actually do the full crafting rules, or roll every minute of underwater breathing checks? And even if they do, it's not the mechanics that make those moments memorable. It's the players, the drama, the chaos, and the choices. You could strip out half the player's handbook and a good group would still have a blast. On the flip side, you could run every rule perfectly, every monster statted to spec, and every spell adjudicated with lawyerly precision, and still have a table full of bored, frustrated players silently wondering how soon is too soon to fake a scheduling conflict. Sad DM noises. So yeah, the rules can be better for sure. They are clunky at times, and there are power gaps and edge cases that break the game in half if you push them too hard. That's just the cost of building a system that tries to serve combat fanatics, theater kids, tactical masterminds, lore nerds, and absolute chaos gremlins all at the same time. It's an impossible balancing act. It's always been an impossible balancing act, and Dungeons & Dragons isn't just the only system that suffers from this type of design, but it just so happens to be the most popular one, and therefore, I'm talking about it. The point isn't to make it perfect. The point is to make it playable, make it malleable, and make it something that you can bend to fit your table, and that requires trust. It requires people who understand that the rules are a toolbox, not a prison. And too many players? They show up wielding the rules like a cudgel instead of a chisel. If you've ever been in a game where someone paused the entire session to argue the exact line of sight mechanics on page 195, or insist that a rule they read in a forum post 12 years ago overrides table consensus, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. These players treat rules as the point of the game, not the framework for it. And in doing so, they miss the actual magic. When a group of good players sits down at a table, the rules fade into the background, and you hardly think of them. They become second nature. The same way a great jazz band isn't thinking about scales, they're just playing. They're reacting and listening and taking risks, leaving space for each other. That's a good D&D table. So what is a better player? Let's start by clearing something up. Being a better player doesn't mean being the most charismatic role player or knowing the rules by heart or writing a 20-page backstory in iambic pentameter. Those things are great. Love those people genuinely. But that's not what we're talking about. A better player is someone who plays well with others. Better players understand the table is a shared space, not a solo stage. They don't need to be in the spotlight every minute because they know how satisfying it is to share it. They'll set you up for the cool moment. They'll gasp when your character makes a huge mistake, not to dunk on you, but because they care and they are emotionally invested in your arc, not just theirs. They're the ones who say yes and instead of no but. And when a game master introduces a weird NPC with a fake mustache and a horrible accent, a good player leans into it instead of rolling their eyes. They don't break immersion to correct the lore, they simply build on it, and they let the story breathe. And sometimes they let it get a little weird. Better players know when to be funny and when to pull back. They know that comedy in Dungeons & Dragons hits harder when it's balanced with sincerity. When your paladin breaks down because they couldn't save the villagers, a better player doesn't crack a joke to break the tension. They hold space for it. They recognize that the moment is part of the experience too. And they truly listen, like really listen, to the DM and to other players. Not just wait for their turn to talk, but they actually pay attention. They don't talk over people, they don't derail scenes for a punchline, and they sure as hells don't spend the entire session shopping for magic items online or watching YouTube while half-heartedly rolling for initiative. And when rules disagreements do come up, they handle it like adults. They can disagree and still move on. They don't turn the table into a courtroom, they don't weaponize obscure rules to screw each other over, they care more about the fun than being right. Because ultimately, better players understand that the best D&D games aren't about showing off, they're about co-creating something you'll remember years from now. That stupid, brilliant, heartbreaking, ridiculous, magical thing that only your table could have made. They know that sometimes the best thing that you can do isn't winning the fight, it's failing in an interesting way. Choosing to lose, choosing the messy option, and choosing the thing that makes the story better for everyone is the mark of a truly great player. And yeah, don't get me wrong, they know the rules, mostly, but importantly, they know when to bend them. Just like a great DM, a great player knows when to lean into the drama and when to say, you know what, I could rules lawyer this, but let's just see where it goes. Those are the players that make the game shine. Not because they're perfect, but because they're genuine. They're generous with their time, and they're generous with their spotlight, and they're genuine with their creativity. And if you're lucky enough to have a table full of them, you could run the jankiest homebrew system in the world, and it would still be fun, because the rules don't matter half as much as the people playing them. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment, make sure you're subscribed, tell me about the worst or best player moments that you've ever seen. I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. And remember, the real crit was the friends we made along the way. Except Kevin's banned. Now keep rolling those dice, and may your quests be epic.